Today I'm talking to Omar. Omar is the accidental chef. He kind of became a chef out of nowhere. He has an interesting background of Arabic descent, and he told me a little bit about how it is to be Arabic or from an Arabic family in the Czech Republic and how that all changed after 9/11. He went on that TV show, Masterchef. That is a big thing, 3 judges and 16 contestants. And that kind of, kicked him into the public eye. And he loves food, would love to do more with food. Especially likes Japanese food. It's interesting, he doesn't necessarily want to play on his family inheritance food culture. But yeah, looks to Japan. But there are reasons for that. But lately, Omar has been fighting his demons, so until he feels comfortable, then he probably will focus more inwards than outwards. Interesting talk. Omar is a super nice guy. He's a bartender that has been responsible for a lot of my headaches over the years. And cool guy. Enjoy. Yeah, and a little bit about the sponsors. Firstly, the Oat Bar, Prague. Oatmeals, skyr, healthy stuff, organic and all that stuff. Everything is handmade, homemade. It's party at every bite. And open Monday to Thursday from 8:30 until 3 o'clock. And then on Fridays and Saturdays from 8:30 until 1:30. You can come and take away, or you can order on Volt or Bolt and get it delivered home. Don't miss out. This is a great place, and it has the highest rating in all of the city of Prague on these delivery services, 9.8 out of 10. Believe that. The other sponsor, Alfred Jobs, alfred.cz or Alfred Jobs in the App Store. It's a web page and an app where you can find jobs. You can set up a job monitoring service so that you get notified whenever there's a cool job coming your way. So you don't need to spend hours every day looking for a job. You can basically sit back, chill, listen to my podcast, and wait for a job to drop into your inbox. Check it out, alfred.cz. Welcome, Omar Ben Hassen Tlili.
Hey man,
did I get the name right?
I think so.
Yeah, and this is not a very typical Czech name, but you're Czech.
I'm Czech, born and raised here. My mom is Czech, but that is not a Czech name. That would be a Tunisian name where my dad is from. And Omar is my given name, right? Ben Hassen means son of Hassen, which is my father. Hey, Dad. And then Tlili is my surname. That's my family name. And apparently the Tlili name, which so many people have a problem with saying, is weird even in Tunisia. I don't know that much about it, but if I may guess, it will be somewhere from the Niger or Mali region.
It's it's T-L-I-L-I, Tlili.
Tlili, yeah. It's definitely not of Arabic descent. I would say more like North African, Berber kind of thing.
Yeah. So the reason, I don't know. You're here because you're interesting, but but I know you in a way that you made me drunk a lot of times as a bartender.
Yeah, I made a lot of drinks your way.
Yeah, and you caused me a lot of hangovers. But I kind of was looking for people to come, and a mutual friend pointed at you, and and then I started looking, and I was like, oh, okay, that's interesting from multiple different perspectives. But you're a little bit of everything. You've been in gastro, you've been in bartending, you've been in the movies. What are you? If somebody would ask you,
if somebody would ask me what am I would say, hey, it's me, Omar, right? I'm that guy. I'm not trying to make that of a big deal out of myself, but if I may say so, like this name that I've been given as a persona at this time, one could say character, one of these Prague characters.
Yeah, and I don't want to spoil anything, but you went on this Masterchef show here in the Czech Republic, and that
Correct.
that kind of made you, in a way, famous overnight.
Yeah, it was one of those like short time being famous deals,
15 seconds of.
Kind of. I'm not that valid anymore, obviously.
But you still, after that, you don't consider yourself a chef as such.
Not really. More as a person interested in eating.
Aren't we all?
Aren't we all? Exactly. Consumers.
Yeah. But so your background. I mean, obviously, with this name, this is not Pavel Czerny, like a typical Czech name.
Jana Novak.
Yeah. Where did it all start? I mean, you're born here, but your family is.
So my dad is from Tunisia, and my mom, she's half Czech, half Algerian. Her dad came here to study, I guess in the 70s, 80s. I don't know. Her dad came here to study, and he impregnated my grandma, and then he left. Bye-bye. One of these deals.
One hit wonder.
Yeah, it kind of happened a lot back in the day, apparently.
Yeah. And so you never had any contact with that side of the family, or
Actually did. 2 years ago, we went to France, actually, to meet some of them, some of my mom's sisters, and some affiliated family. It was very nice, very nice.
And then your father's, he's not here from here, right?
He's not from here. He's from Tunisia, but he lives here. And obviously, I go and visit my relatives there every now and then, when I can. Also, always a very nice visit. They're very happy to see, people.
and these kind of like this background or this family inheritance, let's say. I mean, this is quite unusual here, to have, like, let's say you're 3/4 not Czech, right?
Yeah, 75% African, baby. What's up?
And how is that? I mean, like, is that part of your family? Like, is that inheritance somehow embraced in the family, or do you?
It's how to say this. So basically, I'm as Czech as can be. With its many character traits and flaws and whatnot. But at the same time, I try to educate myself about my other culture, which since I was an early age, which obviously left a huge mark on me, especially. When my father, me and my sister, he would take us to the local mosque, and we would attend Islam lessons. So we know where we come from, right? I know how to pray, and so I don't know that much about it now, but when I was a kid, I knew the whole thing, so like many surahs and how to pray properly. I don't do that as much now, but I do Ramadan when it comes around, and obviously I also try to do some research on the culture and on the lands, North Africa, where did Islam come there, and when did Arabs come there, what was there before, It's kind of fun history.
Yeah. But I mean, it must have been, as a kid, you must have been like a little bit different in a way, that having this, as you say, I mean, you would go to the mosque. I guess not a lot of kids from your school would go to a mosque,
Yeah, you guess that right.
And how, I mean, did you feel that yourself on your own skin somehow, or that you were different, or?
I wouldn't, when I was like a little child, not really. People would be, oh, that's a cute brown boy,
Yeah.
That was about it. He's got these big brown eyes. And then when I started going to elementary and 9/11 happened, I think I was in first or second grade, things changed suddenly, like overnight. It was with these little things. I don't know how it happened with these kids, one day we're all, classmates and friends, obviously you don't hold a grudge, from when you were 6, 7 years old, but you ask yourself how it could have happened that, overnight, these kids would call you, Bin Laden and terrorist and those are actual names I've been called, back in school. And those were little kids. They didn't know what they were talking about, but obviously their parents told them. How else would they know? So that's kind of shitty, when your 6-year-old kid has a classmate, and then you say the word Bin Laden and terrorist in association with that. Yeah, I don't think that's very cool.
But how and what about the teachers and those who were around? Like did they?
No, I would never feel it from them. Never, ever. They would treat me as any other kid, but when it came to resolving problems based on these, you could say prejudices, there wasn't very much done, because you know how it is with schooling and bullying. Just let the kids, resolve it themselves.
And what about your parents? Did they feel difference after this as well, or was this just something that you felt as a kid, or?
Yeah. There was an incident in my school where I don't even remember what happened back then, but I know my parents got really pissed and they stormed into the school, and my mom would come up to the kids that that bullied me and say, "Hey, you do that again, we're gonna come here. We're gonna cut you up. You're Sammy." So after that, my teachers would look at me different, right? It's like, oh my God, he's with the crazy parents. Are they all like this?
But what kind of bullying was this? Mainly words. I mean, it didn't get into violence or something like that.
Yeah, it would be mainly words, to be honest. It would get worse when I would be like an older teenager, like 13, 14, because
this followed you until then. I mean, you still felt it
then. Sort of. It wasn't necessarily, those terrorist remarks, but I would get regularly followed by other kids, and I shit you not, because some of these, I'll tell you about the school a bit later, but some of these kids were, even for their age, fairly uneducated in terms of religion, and then they would come up to me and they would say, "Hey, guess what, Omar?" And I'm like, "What?" And they would be like, "Buddha is a cunt." I'm like, "I'm not even
I don't
Buddhist. What the fuck is wrong with you, But thanks, I guess, what the hell?
Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, thanks for sharing. So they would try to, they would try to agitate me. Yeah, it never worked. I'm phlegmatic. No.
They didn't know even what guy to mention, what do to.
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting.
Exactly. But, they would, sometimes the older boys, they would try to intimidate me. They wouldn't beat me up necessarily, because I've never got myself into that position. I was never, as a kid, very aggressive, unlike now. But but one day, it was actually my final year in that school, and this girl from my class would come up to me. It's like, Omar, they did something. Like, what the fuck? Who did what? And they're like, these guys, they opened your locker and they pissed all over your stuff. I'm like, what the fuck? So this kind of stuff.
Yeah. Because I'm curious about this, because I've lived here for over 10 years, and I'm from Iceland, and I experienced some sort of a xenophobia in a way often, and sometimes it can only be about people being shy of speaking English and uncomfortable or something like this, and they want to avoid that situation. But I also, when I hand over my passport at the airport, it's always inspected somehow.
Oh, really? Mine too, man.
Yeah, I can imagine that.
Passport buddies.
Yeah. And so I'm curious about this, because, but how is it now as an adult? I mean, how do you experience this?
I don't really feel. I don't really feel being that different, or people looking at me. I mean, if you walk on the streets of Prague and you look around, there's way more many people of color, or different backgrounds than it was 10 years ago, and way more. Back in the day, I'm like slightly brown, but I was the blackest kid around. I'll tell you that, right?
But so, they never thought you were Roma.
Sometimes they would. Yeah. They would make comments. I'm like, hey, I'm not a Tikan, I'm half Arab. What's up?
But because when I started talking to you, I mean, I don't remember a lot of the conversation because it was very much alcohol involved. But I always thought you were from the States. I was somehow sure that you were from Florida or somewhere, South U.S. because of your accent. How come you speak such great English?
I've been speaking English since I was a kid. So my parents would put me into Arabic language class. I don't know how, but I would sneak off and go to English classes instead. And that's how it started. Now
so you speak English and no Arabic?
I don't speak Arabic. That's the thing. I don't remember that language. I don't really use it that much.
So they failed miserably.
Yeah, they failed miserably as parents. Sorry, mom, pa.
Yeah.
But as a kid that really didn't belong anywhere, it is too white for the brown kids, too brown for the white kids.
Yeah.
I sort of with the age of internet found solace online with you could say the popular Western culture, while all the other cultures mix. So that kind of saved me, and that's how I became. That's how I started being more active and proficient in English.
And you told me once that when we were talking before this, you said that you consider yourself a cultural Muslim in a way. What kind of how is that?
Cultural Muslim is acknowledging your descent to a degree and sticking to certain traditions while not being per se a strict Muslim. Regarding I don't know.
Not drinking,
having sex before marriage and all that, and some other stuff, right?
So you're not trying to convince me that you're a virgin?
No.
And there's German in your family as well, right?
There's we have some relatives with the family name Braun, spelled Braun, as in German, Braun.
Yeah.
And my great grandmother, she's from Osek, by Duchcov, which is in the Sudeten part of Czech Republic, which was actual Germany during World War II. So that wasn't even the protectorate of Czechia and Böhmen, Unmaden, sorry, but it was straight up Germany. So, and my grandmother was married to a German guy. So German somehow runs in our family. My mom speaks German. My grandma, great-grandma, my aunt speaks German. I speak a bit of German. Even my dad speaks German. Lived there for a bit.
That's interesting. It's kind of the northwest of the Czech Republic, right? To the border with Germany.
Exactly. Right at the border. The city is an hour away from the border, basically.
Yeah. Teenage years and that, like, so everything changed, you said, on 9/11, and then how was it then, the teenage years and kind of young adult?
I was afraid you were gonna ask.
Yeah.
God, I was such a awkward, imagine, I know everybody's awkward during their teenage years, but I was especially awkward.
How?
Well, I was just very I don't know. You know how you have your hierarchy and high school and whatnot. I was at the loser table, you could say. I spoke with some of the cool kids, but I was just weird as fuck. I was this brown, obese kid who would be too shy to talk to a girl he liked. I'm still, but nowadays it's considered cool to a degree. I just liked anime and medieval stuff and, reading books and comic books. Was never the
cool kid.
The cool kid, the sporty guy. I thought I was a cool kid, but I wasn't.
But how was it accepted then that you were different there, or they just put you on the loser table and let you be?
It just let me be. When I got into high school, it got better, because there was a lot of different kids and a lot of different things were accepted. But whenever I think back about my teenage years, I'm just like, oh God, I would never want to go back to that again,
But I think I have the same, actually. There are parts of my teenage years that I would really love to somehow edit out of my story.
Everybody's got that.
Yeah. And you studied something, or how did that go?
I'm not a big academic type, to be honest. I live for life, man. I've had school the streets. Not really. I was attending I don't have a higher education. I was attending the what's it called in English? God, hold on a sec. It's the International Relations and Diplomacy High School, which I did not finish. I dropped out because once I turned 18, I got some actual friends, and that was fun. And we started partying. I never partied before. All these other kids had it. They've experienced this before in their 16s, and I was 18, 19, and started doing that a lot. So I got kicked out of school, and my mom would stop paying for my tuition, and then sort of a breakthrough or a breaking point in my life came, and she'd be like, "Okay, you want to be a big man?" I was like, "I'm an adult, I'm an adult. I can do what I want." She's like, "Oh, you want to be a big man? All right, go take care of yourself. Pack your things, get the fuck out."
Really?
Yeah, that's what happened. I was 18.
That's quite strict. I mean, that. I mean, of course, you're 18. I mean, you're not a kid anymore, but still.
Yeah, well, we were kind of struggling because that was the peak of the economic crisis. We didn't have much money, and
it's 2009, 8, 9.
Yeah. And my mom, she would have to work as a waitress in this. It is non-stop herna kind of bar. You probably can get the idea,
Yeah, it's really the worst kind of place.
Yeah, to be able to put food on the table, and she would actually pay a tuition. It's not that common in Czech Republic to go to a private school. She signed me up for a private school so I would have a good future, and I was a grateful little bitch. So she was like, "All right, big man, go be a big man. Take care of yourself." So there it was. I was 18. I had my backpack with some of my clothes, and I was like, "Hey man, it's like I've heard you have a free room. Can I stay there for a bit?" And I would stay. My first, almost apartment was this room, was this flat. Back in Malaysia, that my friends' parents had it as a kind of like a backup space. They weren't even renting it out. They would like, "All right, here's this space. Like, do whatever you want with it." When you stay in Prague, the places was a fucking wreck. It was like mold, like several centimeters of mold, everywhere. It was these 3 rooms. There was no gas, no electricity. So I stayed there for maybe 2 months. Clean the place up. I would have to be very careful on how I store my food or what I buy, because nothing could really last. I didn't have a light source. I would have to use candles. It was crazy. And what I did to be able to eat some food, I would sell burčak in this burčak stand in front of the mall.
That's the wine.
Yeah, that's fermented wine. It's like very sweet, very sugary.
Before it becomes white wine or something, like, isn't it like an early stage brewing of or?
No, it's a different kind of fermentation.
Okay,
it's a different kind of fermentation where
I only tried it once actually.
Where it becomes very sugary and it's like fizzy.
Yeah.
And you can shit yourself after you drink too much because all the microbes inside.
And so you were selling this outside a shopping mall?
Yeah, I was selling this outside a shopping mall. This guy, through a friend, this guy was like, "Okay, so we have the stand and we're looking for a clerk there. Are you interested?" I'm like, "Fuck yeah, money." And I would work 10 hours a day and I get paid 500 crowns a day. And he'd be like, "If you sell a lot, I'll throw in something extra." I sold a lot and never threw anything in there. I was like, fucking dick.
500 crowns is like 20 euros.
Yeah.
Right?
500 crowns is 20 euros.
A day.
And that's not even that long ago. That's like what?
That's 10 years.
10 years? Yeah, that's 10 years.
Oh.
Motherfucker paid me 20 euros a day. Fuck that guy.
But how long I guess you didn't stay on that job for ages, right?
Not really. I kind of got straight, talked it out with my mom, went back home for a couple months, and then find some other apartment. I started living with my friend whose parents also kind of had some kind of a free space, and with that guy Mikuláš, who's DJ Kevu, shout out to DJ Kevu, he'll let me stay in his parents' house in his room, and we stayed there with this other girl who also had to move from her parents, so we were like a trio,
like an orphanage.
Kind of, kind of like an orphanage, and I was 18, 19 at the time, and I got an actual job. I got a job as a telephone salesman. That was probably one of the worst things I ever did. Because at that time when I was doing it, this kind of selling was not really on its peak. It was on a downfall. You know, you were trying to sell somebody, hey, we have this like phone package. I know it's overpriced, but would you like to take it? And they would target like old people, you know.
Yeah, easy, low-hanging fruit.
Yeah,
and you can manipulate them.
Yeah, and they would have to, and it's not like today, you know, where you can sign a contract online or fill up some kind of form. They would have to send an actual mailman to deliver it, and they would have to sign a contract upon delivery with a new SIM card. You know, and I was there for about 2 months. I got paid for 1 month, and the second month, the company was like, "All right, we're bankrupt, guys. So sorry, no
money,
no wages. Yeah, no wages." And there was this chick. She was one of the co-owners. She was building a house, you know, outside of Prague. She had like a Louis Vuitton bag. It's like, yeah, sorry guys,
no money.
It's like we can't really pay you per se, you know. And they even brought cops so people wouldn't, you know, attack them or anything. Jesus. So that was my second adult job.
But how and like when you're like sleeping in the mold and working those kind of jobs, there was never like you never thought, okay, I'll just move back home to mom. I'll clean up my state, then I'll go back to school. You didn't really want to go to school. There was nothing pulling you, right?
At this point, not really. No, not really. Well, for a while, but I was a kid and I didn't know what I wanted. The only thing I knew at the time is I just want to be able to, you know, live like a person and take care of myself. And actually to this day, I think kicking me out of the house was the best thing my mom could ever do to me. Cause if that didn't happen, I'd still be this unreliable person that would just like rely on others for help all the time. You know, this kind of leech.
Yeah.
I know you're supposed to take care of your kids, but, you know, this was a lesson, a good one.
And what about your dad? I mean, and your mom as well? Were they good role models for you?
This is a trick question. I love my parents, love my dad, love my mom, obviously. But, you know, they're also people and they have their issues. My mom did everything she could, you know, to take care of us, me and my sister, but she was also very young when she had us. So, and try to have a social life, So she wasn't your typical mom, you know. She would let us smoke weed, you know, when we were teenagers and all that.
Yeah.
I didn't think that much of it. I still don't think too much of it to this day. She tried to always do her best. But as she was a single mother, she wasn't there, you know, all the time. And by the time she was there, we were already teenagers. They didn't want to listen to her. So I didn't have a very typical childhood, maybe the early one. And my dad, you know, he cheated on my mom when I was 6, and they got into divorce, blah blah blah. And then he really got into like Islam. He was like, all right, I'm gonna repent myself, you know, gonna become very religious and like a good person. And that's what happened. And he would take us on the weekends, but it was this kind of deal where the dad would come one time, you know, once in a week on a weekend, take out the kids for a couple hours, you know, entertain them, be the good guy, you know, and
then you left back with a mom that doesn't have a lot of money and back to reality.
Yeah, sort of. That was the thing. So he was like we loved him as a kid. He was the entertainer, and my mom, she had to deal with the real stuff. He was never really involved in what mattered. But you can't really hold it up against him as well, because, you know, where he comes from, he's got 10 siblings. You know, his dad, my grandfather, who doesn't live anymore, I met him when I was just like a baby, so I don't really remember him. But he married my grandmother when he was 40, and she was 16.
That's crazy stuff.
She was 16, he was 40, and she was his second wife already.
So it's just a very different cultural background, and
yeah, it wasn't that much different in here as well, you know. But that was that would be like 30-year difference. My great grandmother also had like 5 siblings, 7 siblings. You know? Most of them died during a very young age. They died of scurvy. I have so in Osek there's this graveyard, right? And our family has a very prominent spot of the graveyard, right when you come in, right by the entrance, right in front of the entrance. There's a big fucking tomb with, our family members in there. And I shit you not, I have 5. This sounds like from a fucking fantasy novel, about parents and whatnot. And I have several great aunts and great uncles that died of scurvy, bad nutrition, malnutrition, scurvy. Can you imagine that?
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
But the cooking, that's kind of the thing. Were you into that because you kind of at least got into it? Was that always food and cooking?
Yeah, food played a huge role in our life because since our great grandmother took care of us when we were kids, and she was from a very poor background, war and rural kind of place. There wasn't that much food on the table, so she would compliment it in her old age, always trying to put food in front of us. Food. It was all about food. That was the center of life.
You were chubby already, right?
Was that?
You were chubby already back then.
Yeah,
because you said that when you were a teenager you were obese.
Yeah, I was a fat kid.
Yeah.
So she would always cook these very typical Czech dishes to us, like friske and potatoes, like schnitzels, potato salad, and all these like heavy cream sauces and dumplings and pork cutlets.
That sounds great.
And yeah, it was great. It was great. And every Sunday, I could have a glass of beer, like a small glass of beer when I was a kid with a lunch.
It sounds great. I mean, you could smoke weed and drink beer and eat pork schnitzel,
Yeah, but that left you but I wasn't very sport active, as a kid. That left me a very, very fat kid,
Yeah. But at least you got beer and weed. I mean,
yeah.
You're the winner.
Well, in defense of my mother, I didn't really start smoking weed until I was 17, which doesn't sound that great here, but I know kids have been doing it since I'm like 14.
Yeah. But yeah, so your granny is cooking.
Yeah, my granny was cooking all the time. Every time I would watch her do it. And my mom wasn't always at home. We were home alone with my sister a lot. So we would try to cook for ourselves all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And me moving at a fairly, I'm not saying a very young age, but fairly early age out of the house, I would have to tend for myself, therefore cook. And what was a necessity at first became a hobby. So I would try different recipes, try to make my food delicious since I like it, and I didn't have that much money, so I would have to cook for myself and not eat takeout. And at one point, me and my pal Mikuláš, DJ Kevu, shout out again, we would go to Berlin for a trip. And he's like, man, I got to show you this ramen restaurant, because he started getting into Japanese culture as well. Right? And I was like, I got to show you this ramen restaurant. It's really good. And I'm like, all right, I've never tried it before. So like, let's do it. So we went, and he's like, oh, it's not this one, is the other one. We went to the other one, and we sat down, we ordered our food, and I was in heaven. I shit you not. That moment changed my life.
How old are you then, roughly?
I was 23. Ish. Right?
And then you just know there is something in this.
Yeah, there was something in this that was very charming to me, because we went there, and it was very it was very faithful to the Japanese restaurant style, where you have a couple booths, but then you have like the bar kind of area, where you have the chefs in front of you, boiling the noodles and completing the soups, and they're yelling at each other, trying to get orders out. There's steam, going up, and dim lights. We can talk. You're like, "O-san, ichi no gyoza onegai shimasu," and he goes like, "Hi."
Is this Japanese?
Yeah. and I was in heaven, and then the food came, and we tried it, and it was so good. So good. I've never eaten anything like this before. So I was like, this is great. I love it. I love it. So when I came back home, there was no place. It's not like today, even 5 years ago, you couldn't get none of it here.
No.
You got restaurants now here, but not then.
Yeah.
So I would try to make it at home,
Mm.
and sometimes it succeeded, sometimes not. But that's how it became a passion to me. And sometimes I would have friends over to try my food, and I'd be like, "Oh man, it's like really good." And even if it wasn't, it's like we've never seen this before. That's really interesting. And that's how the Masterchef became a thing. Because this one girl I know, I got a call from her, and she works at sets, like movies and series and productions and whatnot. She's like, "Hey man, you still cooking?" And I'm like, "Yep." And she goes like, "Hey, you want to try Masterchef?" I'm like, "You mean the reality show?" And she goes like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Sure, why the fuck not?" Fast forward, I'm in the show. So so I go to the audition, right? And they're like, "Prepare a dish of your liking that you can serve, right there in front of people, and then we'll do an interview." So I made poke.
Mm-hmm.
The
bowl.
The pickled tuna fish over sushi rice, and they would ask me about it. It's like, "Oh, why did you do this?" And I'm like, "Because I found about it," and that was before the poke craze would start here. Actually, I'm not trying to be hipsterish, being like, "Oh, I did it before everybody else did," but I actually did. And they would be like, "Oh, that's really interesting. This is like, and why did you do that?" And blah, 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 blah. So I vaguely answered that question. I was nervous as fuck in front of the chefs, and then they would send me to the audition, and then you had the production, and I'd be like, "So Omar, tell us about yourself." And you look like an interesting guy. And you could already tell they liked me because I was this like young brown guy, with a funky shirt, and I made this by that time a not very popular dish, and you could already see they was trying to make me a character. One of these ladies like, "Can you rap for us?" And I'm like, "No." Why would I do that?
But so basically, it's totally random. I mean, you had cooked probably for this friend, right? That was calling out for the auditions. But you'd never cooked in a restaurant or in a catering firm or any? I mean, you hadn't really been working on this, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And how was it then to get in there, like, and to all of a sudden have to? Because one thing is to cook in your own environment, in your own kitchen, with your own ingredients, and do the things that you've done. But to be under this pressure of having to, you have to pass a test here so that we decide if you're on the show or not.
Yeah, that was like the first round was okay, and then the audition was okay. Then when I got to the first round in TV, that was okay because they would let me prepare what the hell I wanted, right? So I did this thing I kind of knew, and they were like, "We're not too sure about this." The judges like, "We've never seen this before, and it doesn't really taste much like anything, but it's different." So they're like, "Yeah, we'll try it with you." I was like, "Yeah, all right." And then somehow I passed the first round. The next round, which was about chopping. They would give you. So what happened? So they would take these 60 contestants that they admitted to the show, right? From which they would have to pick 16 to be like the main stars, right? And they would do that based on these different like skill tests. They would let you chop, they would let you prepare this, they would let you fillet a fish. And the first round of these would be chopping, So I'm like, yeah, I can chop. I chop. And they were like, "All right, man, you can chop. You're in." And I'm like, what the fuck?
Wait, so how do you know how to chop?
How to chop? I don't know. I was like, I've chopped some. I prepared. I practiced.
Yeah, but I mean, you didn't go to chef school or anything like this.
Yeah, but I guess I'm not saying it was perfect, but I really practiced. I watched some videos and I tried it a lot at home. But the point is, that's where the real shit started, because suddenly I was thrown into this competition on which I had a very low level to be able to compete in, because these people that were there were very good. They knew what we were doing. I was just a random guy who, a little bit something about a different cuisine, but that was about it. So I had to prove myself there. It was crazy. It was hard.
But how you're the first reality TV star that I talked to on this podcast, and I'm just I'm a little bit curious because no, I'm lying actually. Tonya Graves was here. She was on the dancing episode, Dancing with the Stars.
Oh yeah.
Anyway, you're the second reality TV star that I talked to. How real is it? Do you know what I mean? Because you were saying now that when you went through the audition, you kind of just brought yourself and what you wanted to do, and then how does it work? Are you? I mean, is it real, or is reality real, or is it a designed sequence? Like did they tell you what you should do and how to behave or cook and so on?
So from my point of view, it's real. It's real, but you can't be really too sure because being a contestant, you don't really know what's going on in the background with a script team and the production team. But as far as I can tell, it's real. You come there, they tell you, all right, this is your assignment for today. You got 1 hour, go, and that's about it.
But what about the character? Because I read somewhere that you and one of the judges had some sort of chemistry or like not necessarily a positive one, but more like is that real or is that exaggerated somehow?
Oh yeah, they would ask me if me and Przemek Forejt if we would have if we had some bad blood between us.
Yeah.
Because they could feel some kind of tension on the air. While in reality, he was just giving me sort of hard time because he was in the character. I would say, you could tell, that he's been told, all right, man, you're gonna be our Gordon Ramsay for this show. You're gonna be our Simon Cowell. So it'd be like, be a hard ass, and he's a kind of a performer at heart. So he would enjoy it and he would like really go for it. So I guess that's how some kind of people that's how some people got the notion of us having some sort of conflict, but that wasn't the case really.
And how is it with the other content? I mean, is it like let's say a real competition, or are people supportive to each other, or do you feel this competitiveness between the contestants?
It was. I felt that we were kind of like you could say almost a team. Obviously, we were pitted against each other in different challenges, but we would like it wasn't like, all right, I'm not talking to you because we're gonna compete and all that. I'm
not gonna tell you how to boil eggs because then
they would actually help each other a lot, and it was a really great, or it's a really great group of people who are very supportive of each other.
And you still communicate with them, or
they have a WhatsApp group where they talk, but I'm not really into WhatsApp groups, so every now and then I open it and it's all about, oh hey guys, how you doing? I hope you're doing great. I love you all. And I'm like,
no cooking advice.
And I'm like, yuck.
And but how did you do there? I mean, how? So these are 16 people. One wins in the end, right?
Exactly. One
what
wins.
What round did you make it to?
I made it to as far as being as us contestant as sorry. I made it as far as where 8 people were left to compete.
Yeah. And how the way that this works, right, is that it's all pre-recorded and then it's aired later, right? I mean, they're not kind of doing it, recording this week and airing next week. I mean, so you couldn't really talk about this before it was aired, right?
I'm still on a non-disclosure, but obviously they don't air it live, There's some kind of delay. You just can't tell how big,
Mm-hmm. But and how was it that you kind of going into this? I don't know. I don't want to sound arrogant, but you kind of go in as a nobody, but you come out as a somebody.
Yeah, sort of, because you get attention of because the show is really popular here in Czech, like everywhere around the world. But here being a small country, this show is really popular. So, so you have your face on the prime time on a national television, like every week for me it was like 6 months. So obviously you gain some popularity.
what did that translate into? I mean, like I think somebody told me that you woke up one morning and you had 12,000 people on your Instagram or something like that.
Yeah. I gained like huge amount of Instagram followers, and people would like recognize me on the street. They would try to take photos with me, and it was all very fun. But that didn't last long because I didn't really want to continue in this kind of fashion of like putting myself out there and like becoming this influencer persona. Obviously it has its perks, when I post on social media, but I don't do it as in, this is going to be my job from now on. I'm actually trying to achieve something as a person, and these things seem very superficial to me.
And what did you bring into this? I mean, like, because I admit it, I've never seen a show like this yet. But did you bring some of your background, like your culture, or do you bring that into your cuisine somehow? And on that show, would you?
Not really on the show, but when I cook, I do. I actually did couscous today.
Okay.
Like a nice Tunisian couscous.
And why is that? Before you went on this and you went to that place in Germany, you mentioned Japan. Why is that? Why is Japan exciting?
I don't know. I don't know why, but the history and the culture, it just seems very, very interesting to me because it's so different than what we have here. It's a very specific thing, and it all started with me being a teenager and started watching anime, and obviously with that, there's a lot of like innuendos that you don't get if you don't get the Japanese culture at least a little bit. And I don't glorify the culture as a lot of Westerners do. They'd be like, "Oh, these Japanese people, they're so good at everything, so disciplined. Oh, I love the samurai. They were like knights, and katana is the best sword ever." No, I actually find their history very interesting, as in what they were and what they're now, because it's a very long history of. All right, I'm gonna start like this. So I'm gonna ask you a question. When I say Japan, what comes to your mind?
I mean, high tech industries.
Exactly.
Sushi,
yeah, which means money and technology and education. It wasn't like that always. You have to imagine that the country was decimated after World War II, and the only thing that was able to put it on its feet again in terms of its industry and economy and whatnot was to be extremely conformist in a way. So they had to create a society that was extremely conformist, that nobody would sort of like get out of the way in order to build it up again.
So it's kind of same thing as the Germans did in a way. You can
sort of. But Germany had the thing where they would have where they would be divided between, only in Berlin, but it left a huge cultural mark between the East and West.
East and West, yeah.
So they would have a big culture mix. But over there, and they would still be controlled by the Americans, but over there, it resulted in today's Japanese population being in decline due to the fact that, they're kind of brought up to, study, work, die.
Yeah. It's I mean, we're getting there as well, slowly.
Yeah. It's awful, and people are like, "Oh yeah, they were like this throughout their whole history because samurai, these noble warriors," and they don't really get that. Japan has this like very rich history of what do you call it? Where the state war.
Civil War.
They have a rich history of civil war because several hundred years it was just these like city states, battling with each other with the civilians in the middle, and it was like really several hundred years, and that resulted in people dying all over, famines and whatnot, and that really changed somewhere around I believe. I'm going to sound like an idiot, but I believe 18th century that changed only. And there was this like huge, massive, bloody war to unify the Japan,
I mean, and they attacked China and everything. I mean, these guys have been doing a lot of. I mean, it's not been a staple region. I mean, that's a recent thing.
Yeah, exactly.
But the food and the ramen and all that. I mean, like, so
that's where it actually comes from, the food, because most of it food we see it as delicacies, while for them it was necessities. Where does sushi come from? Sushi comes from the word narezushi, which means
don't punch my tape.
Sorry, man. From narezushi, which means I think pickled fish or something. So they would preserve their fish as in not to rot in cooked salted rice, which would ferment and preserve the fish in salt. So that's how sushi became.
But so you get into this from kind of your childhood, teenage obsession with anime and manga and like that. So that's where you come in, and it's interesting because you have right in front of you extremely rich food culture. I'm not talking about the Czech schnitzel and dumplings. I'm talking about on the other side towards Tunisia and Algeria. I mean, they have the tagine and they have all these different great clay pots and amazing foods. So you had that door right in front of you, but you went to Japan somehow.
Yeah, because for me, it just seemed ordinary. It would never occur to me that it's, something very, very exotic. Since I had
just an everyday thing for you.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So that thing was interesting for me.
And how it was interesting actually when I was reading about that Masterchef thingy, that coming maybe back to a little bit what we were talking about, your background and let's say xenophobia or racism, that they were very excited about all the stuff that I said. There is this guy from Malisice, but when you see him, you will realize that he is different. That was very much like a theme that the tabloids here were talking about you because of your, let's say, Arabic background. And has that turned into become an advantage now for you? Do you see where I'm coming from? Is it now having this different background and being different from the rest? Is it actually now working in your favor somehow?
You could say that, yeah. Yeah, because I don't know how to describe, but we're in such a period of time where where you have a kind of like an exotic background. People be like, all right, cool,
yeah,
and they kind of but it's cool to a degree, because they're like cool and they see it as like an attraction or of some sorts. It's like a this guy, he's got Arabic descent, pretty cool, huh? I'm friends with them, huh?
But it gives you in some way. It also. I mean, if you look at this, if you're because now after this show, this is 2020 edition of MasterChef, right? You're a chef now. I mean, like that's.
I don't really consider myself.
No,
a
but
chef.
I mean, in a way, you wanna be in gastro, and you probably wanna make food, right?
Sure. Yeah, that much is true.
Yeah, and I'm thinking, okay, so. If I take Omar and then I take Jan Černý, the most typical Czech from the same village, who can trace his roots back 5 generations around the country and is from 7 different hometowns, small hometowns, a little bit away from Prague, like everybody is. So you have probably more freedom to bring something different or diverse, right? Or the expectation towards Jan Černý is probably more that he just makes a great goulash or I don't know, svitskova, beefsteak or something.
Yeah. I see where you're getting, where people will expect, something special or different from you, but they don't realize you're just a guy, who happens to have this kind of background. But
yeah, I know, but it's in some way it allows you maybe something that others wouldn't get away with. That it wouldn't be authentic somehow.
Yeah, somehow.
I'm just thinking out of my ass, I'm just it came to my mind listening to you, But so you finish on that show, and we have COVID.
Yep.
So you haven't really been able to use your kind of, or continue on this path, let's say, right?
Not really. I was doing this thing in Barcelona with my friend David, who owns the place.
Shout out to
shout out to Barcelona and David, where we sold like very typical Czech lunch foods, through a window and through these delivery companies, which we don't do anymore because the owner didn't find it to be very profitable. You can do this stuff when you don't have that much money. You can do it on your own where you cook, but when you have to hire somebody like myself and let them do that for you, it's not very profitable. You're not going to make a whole bunch of money, at least in the beginning, So we quit that, and now I'm working at the movies. I work as a assistant director's runner.
What does an assistant director runner do?
It's like, hey man, can you bring us some coffee? I'm like, yep.
Okay.
So I run coffees and lunches these days, or I take care of actors, stuff like that.
Okay. A big project or
I just finished a movie. It's gonna be a German fairy tale, and I'm about to do a German I think it's crime series, like detective series. It's gonna start 30 this month. And
this is big here in Prague. I mean, there's a lot of film and TV series production here and advertisement, right? I mean, it's
yeah, that is true. Due to the Barandov Studios kind of like heritage and Czech Republic having this film fund, meaning even if a foreign production comes in, and they shoot here, they're gonna give them a certain percentage of their money back.
Yeah.
Due to the fact that they're shooting here.
No.
That's kind of advantages to them.
Yeah. Yeah, I went to those studios once. It's Barandov. It's huge and amazing stuff, actually. Yeah. What's gonna happen in, let's say, where do we see Omar Ben Hassen Tlili in 5 years? You're going to have your own restaurant? You're going to be in Japan studying?
I'm going to be very blunt and honest regarding this question. Right now, I don't really know. This has been a very, very hard year or 2 years for me. Because on one hand, you have this thing where you sort of have to get used to getting on TV, and then people, based on that fact, having certain expectations from you. So, because from so many people, I was like, "Oh man, so you're famous. What are you gonna do about it now? You're gonna make some money off of it?" And I'm like, "I would like to, but it's not like I'm gonna make it my point of living." And it was a very uncomfortable period because you are very anxious, as in, oh, so I was on TV.
I should do something.
I have to become like very rich and successful now. And if I don't, people will think I'm this sort of like loser C grade pseudo celebrity, and I don't want to be that. So
that's pretty much me. But yeah, it's okay actually.
But that has left me very anxious. And on another hand, I'm people don't really know this, but I don't think it's something to be that ashamed of. I was fighting an addiction. I was addicted to drugs, right? Which I haven't been doing for half a year now. So I'm half a year clean. It was very heavy. I would spend even maybe sometimes 10,000 crowns a week,
on coke.
I'm not gonna answer.
No comment.
I'm not gonna answer that.
But and how did you deal with this? Did you just do it on your own, or did you get some help with it, or?
My girlfriend helped me a lot. We just did a year together, and at one point she was like, "Hey, listen, I know you work as a bartender, and it's like stressing, and it's like a very wild sort of atmosphere, but I still don't think that it's normal to go out and drink and do drugs 3 times a week, sometimes more. every other day. I don't even think it's okay doing, once a week just to blow off some steam. I don't think that's very healthy. I was like, yeah, maybe you're right. So slowly over time, I was, sort of, because I already got kind of like clean. I was never doing drugs like before that period, but I got clean on alcohol. I wasn't drinking that much, but I didn't see any pluses while doing it. So I haven't been drinking for a year before. And now I don't really drink or do anything for half a year now. So I had to get, back on track. It was very hard because you have the, the drawbacks, the dopamine and serotonin drawbacks
and it's a difficult time now during this COVID thing to be dealing with this kind of thing, because that in itself it's depressing enough and creates anxiety as well, right?
Exactly. So that was the anxiety from not kind of living up to people's expectations, as in I was on TV, and then I'm trying to quit drugs and drinking, and then of course Czech Republic and Prague, especially being the environment it is, you have people partying all the time, and they're like, "Oh, what's up, man? Like, you got yourself a lady, and then now your family man, go out. She doesn't let you go out, and you're like, fuck no, man. I just don't really see anything positive about going out, getting shit faced every other day, and having these meaningful talks until like 5 a.m. just to feel shitty the next day. I don't see any point in it. And people are like looking at you like you're crazy. They're like, really? Do you think I'm doing something wrong with my life? I'm like, yeah, you are. You're wasting your life. I'm sorry.
Yeah, but I guess for this, it's everyone for their own. Everybody has to find their point where they want to make a change.
Exactly. And it was these two things, and all of a sudden, they closed all the bars, all the restaurants. So, I was out of job. So that wasn't a very good time. But I'm gonna come up now. I have the job in the movies. I'm clean now. I'm spending time with my lady. We have a flat together, which we're renting, and trying to put together, making it nice. So I'm just trying to live my best life as a regular person, and I'm very happy now.
No, that's great to hear. I mean, I think, like, I know it's totally, of course it's different. I never went on a TV show and became overnight and today it's different. But I had an experience like this some 15 years ago when I took a very high profile job, and then I left that world, and it was an interesting, the expectation were, oh, why aren't you being this big guy anymore? Why aren't you, go out and be that, what we know you, who you are, because I was always identified with some companies or some sort of a role or position or something like that. So I can totally relate to that there is like a lot of external expectation that kind of comes on you. And if you don't want it for whatever reason, then, what's wrong with him? What's wrong with that guy, It's a very weird thing, but it's good when you can block it out. It's really, really good, because in the end, it's nobody's business but yours. What do you want to do,
Exactly. You're saying that it's very hard to just like let go of that, dissociate of all these expectations. Not very easy.
Yeah, because like in your case also, it's so tangible. You open your phone and you have 20,000 Instagram followers, and they're all waiting for you to bring out a dish, or or to go on the next TV show, or show up in a funky shirt or something. And it's crazy, because I didn't have that. There was no such thing when I was your age, like we had fax machines, and so I can totally relate to that these things can be more harmful than pleasant. But it on the other hand, it also has opened you a door, right? I mean, or given you an insight into something.
That sure has. It has opened, as you say, even if I don't really contribute to the social media, even the following I have now, even though it shrank, it's still pretty high. Meaning I can I can do some kind of business or make some kind of money with it. Not really sure what exactly, but it will come in handy when when I decide.
But you would like to do something in with food. I mean, I guess that's kind of the calling in a way, right?
Yeah.
Why? Yeah. Why is that? Why is food? What is it about food?
I just love it, man. I like to eat. I really, I don't know how to explain it. Most people eat for the like. Some people just like don't eat as much. Some people eat a whole bunch of stuff just for the volume because they're fucking, insatiable.
You're talking to one here.
Human beings. But I just like to eat. I like flavors. I like textures. I like trying different things that I've never ate before. I just really like it. Excites me like big time.
And what about? And I can verify, guys, who are listening, that he's turned on here on the other side. The guy is turned on by talking about food. But what about pleasing other people with food? Is that rewarding?
That is very rewarding. There's nothing better than whipping out a dish that you put your heart and soul into, and then the other person's like, "Oh my God, this is so good," and you're like, "Oh yeah, that's what I was going for."
Yeah, it's an instant kind of reward in a way, or you get the feedback right away. It's
Exactly. So and especially with trying like different kind of dishes and flavor profiles. That's what I like about the Japanese slash Asian cuisines, because they have very different flavor profiles and textures than we do. At least North Africa is like it's comparable to Mediterranean dishes to a degree, but that thing, it's out of the world.
Yeah, I was in Japan 2 or 3 years ago for 2 weeks, and yeah, I could go there on a food trip just to eat. They're amazing.
So that's what excites me about it, and that's that brings you back to the history where European cuisine, most of the dishes are based on classical French, which is a very kind of like high profile, has been perfected over hundreds of years in royal courts, kind of cuisine with its rules and whatnot. And then on the other hand, you have this like Japanese / Korean / Vietnamese, which is basically, oh yeah, we eat these roots that are slightly poisonous because back in the day we didn't have nothing else to eat, but now it's really popular for some reason.
Yeah.
Right?
It's the same as we have in Iceland with for fermented shark, for example. That's something that nobody would eat, but it was eaten, and it had became like a delicatessen in a way. But it was out of necessity. It was just, okay, that's the only way to preserve that shit, because we didn't have any freezers or coolers or anything.
Yep, so that's what I'm talking about. And they would try to make that one an ingredient into several different, dishes, and that's where you get the textures. And that's and what I like about Asian cuisine is the chewy texture, because in European cuisine you don't really, people like crunch, they crunch. What about the chewy? What about the sinew? I like to chew and stuff. I like it how it, okay. I just like chewy, man. You ever tried tteokbokki?
Yeah, I think so.
The little Korean rice cakes in the super hot sauce?
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Whenever I would like offer it to somebody, like Czech, they'll be like, I don't like this, man. This is chewy. I'm like, what the fuck? That's the best thing about it, right?
That's what it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
But okay. So in some way, Omar, you're the accidental chef in a way.
Yeah, accidental chef. I do really like that title.
Yeah, I think we might stick that on. I think we're done.
Oh yeah, thank you for letting me on your show.
Yeah, but you're not off yet. I need to know. I want people to. If people want to know more about you, where do they go?
If you guys want to know about what I'm doing, go to my Instagram, which is Branik Papi. Branik_Papi. You know the beer, Branik?
Yeah.
So Branik_Papi. For those of you that don't get the innuendo, Drake's Twitter is Champagne Papi, so I'm kind of like a low cost version.
and anything else? Any Facebook page or anything like that? Or you just
I have Instagram? A Facebook page, but I don't really have anything on it yet.
Okay.
I might do a couple of YouTube videos soon, so you guys stay tuned for that.
Yeah, and you're working on. You told me that you were considering some project about tuna in a can.
Yeah, this company or this advertisement company told me, hey man, like we wanna do like an advert campaign for for these people, like, would you be interested? I'm like, hell yeah. So I'm actually going tomorrow to shoot it, and if it becomes a thing, it'll be very, very fun.
Okay, that sounds good.
Very fun.
So, yeah, guys, you can follow the show we have a Facebook page called The Bunker. How the hell did we end up here? And on Instagram, it's The Bunker Prague. And my personal Instagram is Midlife Crisis Warrior, and my Twitter account is Midlife Crisis Warrior. Share the show, review it, talk nicely about it at birthday parties, and and also if you have any cool people that are living in the Czech Republic, preferably in Prague, reach out to me and let me know. I'm very happy about some of the feedback that I've been getting on some of the episodes. I know that there was I got a phone call actually from far related friend that thanked me for the highly sensitive episode that has been earlier in my catalog, and realized that his son is like this, and now they're gonna treat him a little bit differently than they have done so far. So I'm happy to hear that the bunker is helping people. Thanks to the sponsors, Alfred.cz and the Old Bar Prague. Omar, it's been great having you here.
Hey, thank you for letting me come on the show.
I didn't know shit about you before you came. And there's a lot of stuff. That was cool.
Thank you. I hope I wasn't too boring for your show.
No.
I
have that role on this show. I'm the boring part.
Yeah, I'm just a guy.
Thanks guys for listening. Bye-bye.
Bye.